Welcome back. In 1957, the United States signed a civil atomic energy agreement with one of their allies. And that ally was actually Iran. So the seed for today's war in 2026, because one of the reasons Donald Trump gives is, of course, the fact that he does not want Iran and Tehran to develop a nuclear bomb. But the seed for this was actually planted way back in 1957, when the very country that now attacks Iran actually supplied them or signed this agreement. And then in 1967, they gave them a reactor, a research reactor, to the Tehran Research Institute, and they gave them 5.5 kilograms of enriched uranium, 93% enriched U-235, and a few other things. So yes, they did not supply them with a bomb, and that was not the idea. But if you supply a country with nuclear capabilities and give it to a research institute, and by the way, this reactor is still running in, I think, Tehran's University of Tehran, and then you are setting a base for future problems. And this is exactly what happened when they signed this deal in 1957 and supplied the reactor. Because it did give Iran's scientists and whoever worked at this research facility, it gave them access. It helped to train them, it gave them experience, gave them isotope production, and so forth. And so here we are in 2026 with a war in Iran. And currently also we are sitting with Donald Trump and his Saudi deal. Interesting deal. Of course, he went to Truth Social afterwards and said, well, this is contingent on the Saudis accepting Israel for being Israel, basically. So the Saudi comparison is not just it's not a neat comparison, obviously. It is clearly a gamble by Trump for current deals. He's willing to sacrifice some future security. I do not believe for 1 second if you're going to supply the Saudis with this technology in the next couple of years that maybe 30 years down the line we don't have another war. Because once a country has this technology available to them, they're going to study it, they're going to use it, and you cannot currently blame, I think, any country if they want a nuclear bomb, quite frankly, because the US has proved that they might just pitch up in your country and abduct your leader and keep him somewhere in a jail there in New York, I think, talking about Maduro. But the Saudi comparison, let's have a look at that quickly. So that was on 22nd of July. They signed a 30-year Section 123 civil nuclear agreement. But the interesting thing around here is that they do not talk about the IAEA additional protocols that has to be followed. And also it does leave room for Saudi in future to open an enrichment facility after a joint feasibility study. So the United States and Trump is making some kind of a commercial deal here, trying to balance getting maybe money into the country right now, into the United States now, strengthening the Middle East, and then saying to Saudi Arabia, well, we will give you this technology. And again, maybe we will pay for this 20 years down the line with another war. So let's get back a little bit to Iran and what happened there. Now, the United States, they didn't, like I say, give Tehran a bomb factory in 1957 or 1967. It was a nuclear relationship with an ally. And this 1957 cooperation agreement is part of Dwight Eisenhower's Atoms for Peace policy. And then in 1964, there was an amendment. And this allowed the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission to supply uranium enriched above 20% for research reactors. Required civil use and provided U.S. or the IAEA safeguards over this supplied material. And then this research reactor went critical in 1967. It's small, as I said, and it's still running today. But a reactor, as we said, does more than just split atoms. It creates procurement routines. It creates knowledge, practical knowledge of the material, of radiation, of further technological development. And this, of course, this inheritance at least, it survived the fall of the Shah. Now, the Shah was, of course, installed by the British and the Americans there. And that is why they viewed Iran as an ally at that stage. He was basically a Western puppet and decided to sell Iran's oil mostly for his benefit. Shah just means king, and he really did live like a king. And that's another interesting point, diverging a little bit, but his son, his exiled son, Reza Pahlavi, is now trying to make a bid to return to Iran and seeing himself a little bit as the savior of Iran, although he hasn't been to Iran in decades. And his father was a brutal king. His private army, the Savak, tortured many people to death, many Iranians to death. And he lived large. He really did live like a king, not very connected to his own people. And of course, he was eventually overthrown for that. And the whole point, and why I'm just bringing this in, is currently you might think, yes, things are stable with Saudi Arabia. Maybe things stay stable. But as Iran has proved, things can change. Leaderships change, governments change. And who knows what will happen with this agreement with Saudi Arabia in 20 years' time. Was this a massive blunder? Will it still happen, by the way? Because, as I said, Trump seems to think when you go on Truth Social and to a post there that some type of agreement has reached. And I think I read yesterday that the Saudis pushed back and said, well, they don't do deals as per Truth Social. So this might happen, might not happen. Let's see. Watch the space. Personally, I think it is a massive blunder that the United States and a calculation error here that Trump is making. But as always, leave your comments and your thoughts, and we'll monitor this topic as we go along. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.